Hi, I'm back again. I hope everyone is staying safe and doing well in all this craziness. But it's been nice to see how much music has been coming out. Speaking of which, some exciting news. I actually managed, since I have extra time, I managed to get a album released of a lot of my previous tracks. So it's out on Spotify and iTunes and all that junk if you're interested. There it is. It's a pretty first album I've ever released, so it's actually a pretty cool feeling to have my stuff on Spotify. It's crazy. Anyway, so today I thought we would do the challenge that I talked about in the last stream, which is a single CV challenge. So the idea here is that I'm only going to use one CV source, and we're going to see what we can make. It could turn out good. It could turn out like total garbage. I don't know, but I think it'll be an interesting limitation to try out. So, the rules I have for this are that so I'm going to use a single CV source, obviously, and that anything that I do with that CV source has to be directly derived from that CV source. So that is to say, I could take an LFO and dump it into marbles on the sampling input so that it does like a sample and hold off of it. That's fine. But I couldn't like use it, for instance, I couldn't use a CV signal to like gate marbles and then just generate 3 random CVs like this, because then that's, I don't know, feels like cheating to me. So I meant to get my ornament and crime hooked back up into here for visibility. We can use it for a scope, but I did not get a chance. So we'll see how that goes. I might either end up having to patch some things in here on the fly, take out some modules and put that in place, or we might just use a simulator in its sampling mode, because although it doesn't give you a full oscilloscope sort of output, you can at least see what the CV is doing. So, all right, let's get started with this. So I figured that probably the best place to have a CV source out from would actually, in this case, maybe be the tetrapad in combo mode. Have an LFO out of that. So I think if I take an LFO, then I could experiment around with, is it better in sine or triangle or whatever else. So I'm gonna set that up. Go into combo mode. We're gonna make our first pad into a, we want LFO, here we go. Oh yes, and of course it also, we can actually see the LFO as it exists here. I mean, yeah, hi Red Knucklehead. I mean, one LFO or envelope. That's it. So everything that we're gonna do is gonna be derived from this LFO. We're gonna see how this goes. Figured it was an interesting variant on the 3 module challenge that everyone likes to do. So, okay. So let's see. First things first, a bit of setup. I mean, we're going to obviously be multing the living hell out of this. I didn't notice that you get an inverted version of the signal already on output 2 from the tetrapad. Interesting. That could come in handy. I don't have to use an inverter for it. So I'm just going to preemptively slap a big mult on here. So a few things that we're going to need to do with this. We're going to need a way of generating gates in some fashion or another. We're going to need a way of generating quantized notes, most likely. And then all the other CVs are just going to be like, in what different ways can we mangle this one source together? So we already have an inverted version of it. We'll see. I might use Dissing Mark IV to maybe make like a rectified version of it, so like only positive side of the wave or something like that. I don't know. We'll kind of see as we go here. So the first thing that I wanted to try out, which was actually an interesting suggestion, is I don't think I have all the modules to do this, but you can actually make gates sort of based off the difference between this LFO and another one. So if I were to take one part of this, throw a signal raw into one side of a mixer up here, unipolar mode with everything turned up. And then I'm gonna take that same signal and I'm gonna put it into the input here and actually slew it a bit. Because if I slew this signal, as I understand, let's make sure this makes sense. Yeah, that's right. If I slew this signal, as I understand, I'm going to get a slightly offset version of the same LFO, which should, if I then take the slewed version, whoops, I don't need a longer cable for that. Okay, Forstein, this LFO is just a sine wave for now, so we'll see if I end up having to switch that into something else to make it more interesting, but put that into B, and then I think that we'll get some sort of weird different signal out of this, but let's just see. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna bastardize assimilator's sampling setup here to see, since I don't have my ornament and crime hooked up. Right. Let's turn it down and speed a little bit here. Actually, sorry, what I have to do is invert this one. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so this thing has fallen out of focus, apparently. Come on. Focus here. Here we go. So if you see the little bouncy ball thing we got going on, so I took the original signal, I summed it with an inverted version that's been slewed, and now I've got another signal that's a variant on this, mostly positive, I think. Let's see what difference it makes when we change it. Yeah, if I change the slew, depending on how much I change the slew, we sort of influence the amplitude of that until it's down to nothing. So that's gonna be interesting. Hey, Techno Bear. By the way, in case you all missed it, I finally actually released an album too, so if you're interested, there's where it's at. Okay, so this is at least the beginning of signals. Now, supposedly, you can take this and make it into a gate. It seems to need a logic comparator module to do it, which I don't have, I don't think. Maybe I have it in the disting. I'm gonna hold off on that for the moment, just because I don't want to like sort of burn my disting into something early because it has so many functions and I gotta find a good usage for it here. So the other thing we need from this is some source of quantized CV. So for that, think that I will put it into marbles. Here it is. So we're going out and into marbles, into the sample thing, which should, if I turn the spread appropriately, this should be doing a sample and hold and then on that LFO and then simultaneously quantizing it. So that should, you know, kill two birds with one stone. We'll see what it sounds like just through rings. Not that I'm necessarily going to use rings, but at least it gives us a sort of reference here. I think that it's just going to be going up and down, but you know, it's a start. So what I might do here is change Marble's clock. So the general goal here is to make a patch that's entirely based off of this one CV source. Everything in it will be derived from this single CV source. So we'll see how this goes. All right, I'm gonna add a whole bunch of jitter. Actually, no. What I want is to change the point at which... Actually, don't I have to? Actually, there we go. So now it's in sampling mode. Sorry, I was already violating my rules, but now it's in sampling mode. It's gonna be all over the place here. So we may have to take this. Let's take this original signal we were doing and let's put it through an attenuverter. I think by the end of this, I'm gonna wish I had way more attenuverters. Although actually, let's bastardize a VCA as an attenuverter. I think I should be able to. Yeah. That way I save some attenuversion here, so we don't want it to be full range, right? Actually, I don't know if this will do exactly what I wanted. Nope, it's not gonna work. Okay. Through an attenuverter then. Unipolar mode, because that range is way too big to make anything that's like particularly musical. Here we go. Interesting. Would have figured that would have been how about we do it this way? We'll take it out of D so that we can both attenuvert it and add voltage to it. So it's going to be a lesser signal. The overall amplitude of the signal will be less, but we're shifting it up a bit so it sounds a bit nicer. So it's already pretty good. Okay. Now, of course, putting it through rings is kind of cheating to a degree because rings automatically triggers every time there's a voltage per octave change. Or volt per octave change, rather. So let's not use rings. It's too easy. Let's make this more interesting and difficult. So how about using the CSL? Just because it has lots of points that I can modulate here. Just start it with just a sine wave. Just to make sure that we are... and I'm gonna tune it up. Let's do that first. I think we steal a tuner out of here. I'm just gonna mult this real quick so that I can hear when we get up to a decent level. Okay, so let's just make sure that this makes sense with the sequence, sort of. Yep. Now, obviously, we're going to put a VCA in this because otherwise it's kind of boring. So, now this is going to be interesting. How will we directly derive an envelope? Because like I could just cheat and use stages and make an envelope and trigger it, but that is a CV signal, and that's a CV signal that's not directly derived from this LFO. So how can we take this LFO and make it into a more interesting envelope? Or something derived off of it? We could send part of it out, I guess, into the time and level control. That would only influence, so that would cause it to influence the attack and or release time of a stage's envelope. It's sort of derived from it, sort of not. What about the weird little bouncy ball thing that we made? How about that? Because that sort of then combines gives us a combined gate and other things. So this little bouncy ball signal that we had going on, if we put that into the CV, it's sort of weird. It's like an envelope derived from an LFO that I can control with a slew. But this might be where I want the rectifier, because the problem is, of course, like a negative envelope, because this is a full +5 to -5 LFO. A negative envelope is not exactly useful. So let's just pull up our little thing about disting and see where its rectifier is. Here it is. It's A3. Okay. Right, so this is a dual rectifier, so I can use this twice if I needed to for some reason. We'll take, what do we need? This, right? No, this one. This is the one. This one can go into X. And then A will become a rectified version of X, although I don't know if it's just going to be... yeah, we want the absolute value. I think this is going to work, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if red is negative or positive on disting, so let's see. There we go. Okay. You're a negative envelope. That's so nerdy. I love it. Okay, that worked relatively well. And now I can sort of adjust this. That was actually kind of cool. It's interesting having the gates or the voltage changes out of sequence with the envelope too. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Let's start using this. Let's maybe get off of this sine wave here and start doing something more interesting. Let's. We're going to filter this. All right, and then we're obviously going to do a bunch with this LFO because there's a lot of opportunity to modulate stuff here. So let's take it, since we've got it, let's take the other side of that absolute valued output, dump that in somewhere. think it'd be nicer if this was slewed too, but I don't know if I have anything else that would allow me to slew right now. Stages might. Because if I go into the time/level, I think, let me see here. It needs to be gated. No, if I put it in repeating mode here, I think that I have to put it in repeating orange mode. Yeah, there we go. And then if I turn this knob up, I get is it an added version of it or a slewed version? I think it is slewed. So let's just see if that like puts things a little more out of sync and gives us some like interesting rhythm or something. Not quite. Not quite what I want. I want like an offset. Not a voltage offset, but a time offset. So just a slew isn't quite, or like a glide is not quite what I want. There's something that we're missing from here is a fully like offset version, like a phase shifted version of this. I wonder how I could go about doing that, or if I even can. Phase shift with. What about PAMS? Can I? Because PAMS has CV1 and CV2 in. I don't know that I can make anything that would be directly derived from CV1 or 2 though, unless, oh, but the wave, yeah, this is it. The wave input on PAM's new workout can be an input CV signal. So if I send it in there, we ought to be able to do all kinds of interesting things with this. So let's take this. We'll go into CV1. Take the wave as CV1 here. I probably won't just start PAMS, but that's okay, yeah. So if I phase this out, if you see this light, it's behaves really strangely. It's almost random, let's just see. Strange. This is a part of the PAMS manual that I have not read into about sending in a CV as a wave. Like, it feels almost like it's doing a sample and hold based off of PAM's clock or something. This is cheating for a minute, but I want to see whether this works, and or what this does if I actually send a clock input in. Yeah, I think it is sampling the wave based off of the clock, which is interesting. You two are saving for PAMS. You should. It is useful in so many different ways. So many different ways. So, no, offset is voltage offset, so I don't actually remember what delay does. Not quite what I want. but let's do the phase thing. It was kind of made for some interestingness there. And let's take the output here and make this more interesting by, we'll put it through Rainmaker. So now we're going to have all sorts of points at which we can modulate. I'm going to run out of mults, I'm guessing. Everything's going to not be quite clocked because deriving a gate from all this. Well, I don't know. So given that it's an LFO that touches plus 5 volts, if I were to send this into an input that takes just gate, let's just try and see if it triggers at the top of every swing of the LFO, then that's. Every time I plug these in and out, it's going to cause problems. Yeah, it does. Okay, so at the top swing of every sine wave, you do essentially generate a gate. It's not or actually a trigger, technically, not a gate. So that's something. But that we could at least use to clock Rainmaker, for instance. More interesting. There we go. That's a little more interesting. I don't think I might not want the gate to be that, or the clock to be that synced. Sounds a little funny. I also feel like oh my goodness, that's way too synchronized. Just manually set some slightly different tempo and we'll see what we get. Interesting, because I don't know that I could necessarily derive a shifted gate from this. Could I? If I went into CV2 on PAMs and like took output 2 as CV2 as an input. Because it's just gonna sample it every so often, so that's not really gonna give me, no, that's not really gonna give me what I want. Yeah, it's turning out pretty interesting so far. And then it's fun to actually modify this whole thing by just increasing the LFO rate. Giving it that sort of, I think it's the modulation of the wave folder that's giving it that sort of percussive feel too. This is cool. adjusting the slew. That's way cooler than I anticipated this being. All right. So I was saying too that I think although we're sampling the input into marbles, it could use a little more variability, I think. So how can we take this super fast LFO and derive randomness from it? Would just be a sample and hold, I think. So that could just go into PAMs. Let's take, just so that I don't keep using this one up, let's take, since Tetrapad offers an inverted version of the signal, let's just take the inverted version of the signal. We'll send it into CV2. And then so output 2 should be the wave. CV2, yeah. It should be sampling it rather randomly. I'll turn off the random skip because I don't want it to skip anything. Well, or maybe I do actually. Skip, don't always send something. And then we'll like phase it out of phase a bit, and we'll like offset it. Offsetting is going to add to it a little bit. Let's offset it a little bit just to give it some weirdness. Delay is, I don't actually understand delay, so. I don't know, let's see what this does. So we'd have to take our sampled signal here, and we'd actually have to mult it together. So we'll steal that for a moment. Or wait, we have to mix it together. So I'm going to use the duet up here. One side will be this. The other side will be a longer cable. The other side will be this. Both in unipolar mode. So we'll try just mixing some of that signal in to start and see how it affects the pattern. Interesting that it's only the lower pitches that seem to get the percussive sound. That was just doubling the amplitude of the original sampled signal. It's so cool that the like percussion-y sounds sort of like come in waves as it picks out some random values that are on the low end of the scale, because the CV2 here that we're using to add that randomness to the sample in marbles that sets the pitch is bipolar. So on occasion it will actually reduce the and I'm running it in bipolar mode negative right now too. So yeah, I've got like these three knobs, this slew here and the combination of A and B that actually let you pretty drastically change this sound. this. We only really modulated a little bit of the CSL. Let's do more. Starting to run out of patch points on this, but that's okay. Together in varying amounts with what I have right now. Sort of. I could use the maze. I'm wondering about mixing two of the CSL's outputs, but I don't know. I also really like this sound, so let's do. So we've already done a few interesting derivations of this CV signal, but let's do one more that I really wanted to try, which was. So you might have seen that in last stream, I think it was, maybe the one before. I've said, thanks to someone's suggestion, I remembered/realized that the assimilator can also record CV values. The assimilator can also run on sample on sample or sound on sound mode. So I figure if I stuck a CV value into this and started recording with it being monitored in sound on sound mode, would we get some like weird, interesting layering? Especially if I like, so if the section that I sample is only like, I don't know, half a second long, but the wave is at an amplitude, or a wave is at a frequency of like, you know, I don't know, what's a non-divisible number for 0.5, like 0.2 seconds or something like that, then if you're doing sound on sound, you'd get a LFO, or get a like derived LFO that kind of like phases with itself. So let's see what it does. So, we're going to go into the left side. We're DC coupled, so that's good. We need to go into record mode, sound on sound. I think it's with the double arrows is the one that fades, because I don't want this to just build on itself and get ridiculous. And then we need to set up the monitoring. How do we do this again? Here we go. Monitor left and right. Turn those on so that, actually I guess we just need monitor left because we're not going to use the right signal at all. So now that LFO is just coming raw out of the left side, but what we should be able to do is change this. If we go into sampling settings and we arm sampling, and let me stop. That's not what I wanted. Alright, let's erase this and try again. We need to, instead of setting a, where's that thing where you set how long it records for? There it is, sampling time. Not all. We're going to sample for, I don't know, let's try 1 second. Let's see how this goes. So we should sample this, and it's going to continuously loop the incoming CV signal on top of that, but because the incoming CV signal is probably not actually in sync with a 1 second sample, it should result in something interesting. So let's see. Yeah, here, I don't know, you probably can't quite see, but if you watch the signal, it's actually making it's a bit of a variation every single time it goes through. Just like slightly out of phase with what it was the last time. So let's sort of see. Maybe I'll try something shorter actually, because I'm not sure that captured it quite. So we'll do 0.1 second sample. Now it's all sorts of interestingness. If you even watch, you might not be able to see it because it's going so fast at the frame rate this is displaying, but the green bar is actually like it's vibrating like crazy, but it's also like the amplitude is slowly shifting up and down and up and down, like so that it's sort of, it is phased. So that's cool. That's sort of what I wanted. Now what are we gonna do with this? I don't know. I don't know. Do something crazy and put it into resonance. It's probably too fast for resonance. Way too fast for the filter. Maybe we could do something with Rainmaker on this. Pitch shift could be interesting. If I had it just a little bit. Some sort of interesting detune. A skipping orchestra, yeah, totally. And small knobs. Sometimes I feel like a great thing for someone to make in the eurorack space would be like a, you know how you can use gears, gear ratios or whatever to make it so that like one big turn of a gear is like only a little tiny turn of a smaller gear or whatnot. I feel like someone needs to make one of those that like fits around mini knobs so you can like slip it on there and actually have some level of control on them. That would be really nice. What about, I don't think tone is going to be really subtle at the rate that this is going. What do we have for mod options here? Maybe I'll find something there. Now, I think it did work okay in pitch shift, as long as I don't add enough, or I don't add too much. There, just a little bit gives it that warbly, lo-fi junky sound. Okay. Now, other things we could do here is I can take any one of these weird CV signals I've made and I could drop it into Maze and then combine them together in weird and wacky ways and then sequence between those things. But I need to find another point that we should modulate. What would one of these things sound like going into the FM inputs of... Let's see. It's all spaceshipy. using a signal derived from this one, so that wouldn't be fair. What else? We could try this again. Always add another voice to this. Why not? Let's do that. If we took another side of marbles, it would be a less frequently changing voice. Let's see. What could we use that with? We could try rings. Dampening turn all the way up. Every time a note goes off, we get something longer playing. Not when it's that loud. This is much more subtle. Oh, no. Where's a bell sound? Send this through lo-fi junkie. I think it'll fit better. Signal for a moment and see. I'm just going to switch this to a better mode for this. Oh, that is actually kind of cool. Weird, it makes like a bird sound almost. So I think if I turn down the or maybe I want to turn it up actually. It is weird with shape. I don't know if I like it. I bet you if I put this in strum, it's just gonna go nuts. If I turn down the... actually works, sort of rhythmic. Let's see if we can use the inverted signal again for something interesting. Gives it like an FME sound. Or it gives it a really FME sound. Modulating lo-fi junkie. Might be too fast for it. Wish I could actually add a bit to the volt per octave here, but I don't have any spare voltage adders. One of the problems with using only one CV source is, wow, you need like 4 billion attenuverters and a whole lot of voltage adders, and like... something else to patch into here. What about if I mult off one of the positive only values here? Seems to dull down the shape, if anything. It's not really what I want. This isn't quite audio rate. I was kind of wondering if that would end up doing something in the input of rings, but not really. Modulate the hell out of speed. Use this as the wave. No, I think almost everything we do with it is like too fast for lo-fi junkie. That's okay. Alright, I don't think we're gonna get much more out of that sound from modulation perspective unless I send it through more effects, but that's okay. What else could be used here? Let's sit down for a sec. Make this a little easier, because I'm primarily working up here now. I've got most of my signal, or my CV signals set up. signals together, I could take the weird squarey, squared off sine wave, mix that with the wave folded one in a sec. And then come out to the filter. We'll be able to modulate the mix, but signals here to modulate the pulse, or to do the pulse width modulation. I don't know if that'll do something. Interesting how similar it sounds, actually. How about this multiply input? Sort of adds something to it. Does it do much if I modulate it? Not really. Okay, anyway, I do like these sounds both together. Seem to work well. Just there's no real good modulation on it. Okay. If we start to introduce some FM now, does it? It just gets too crazy. That's something I'm really not very good at, and I really need to get some practice on, is using FM in an actual musical way. This already sounds way better than I expected it to. Turn it way up. Yeah, I've got lots of ideas, so here's the thing. I got lots of ideas of other ways in which we can mangle this signal, but not necessarily places where it can go. So maybe maybe I can just talk about those other things that I was thinking about, but just I don't have places to patch it at the moment. So there was definitely the mash signals together using maze, because I can combine multiple signals to one output with different VCAs attached to them. So a little bit of this signal, a bunch of this signal, and only a little bit of this signal or something like that after I've made a few derived ones. And I can also invert it, so I could, like, with maze, I could take the raw signal, combine it with a little bit of its inverted signal to, like, bring down the amplitude if I wanted to. We already did the assimilator thing, which is working quite well. The weird phasing LFO. And then, of course, I could also use planar, because I could send a signal into A, B, C, or D, and then record something which would change the amplitude of that, and probably come out on the mix output or something like that, send a few of them in, and wobble them together with a planar. So, like, if you have the utility, I guess it goes to show that if you have lots of utility type modules, with only one LFO, you can make a lot of really interesting signals that you can use in a lot of really interesting ways to make something crazy like this. Try here. I'm running out of ideas of where else I could patch things up or through. This is really wacky in pan, maybe. I need to not use a one-sided signal if I'm going to use pan. But it sounds like it could be good. Let's see. I think it pans so fast that it, yeah. Alright, how about channel 7's pan? This would be a good way to end it, I think, would be like with this sort of effect and a tempo fade out. But it's better to leave it as is when it's, yeah. So I might like take that, put it through a switch so I can turn it on at some point if I was meant to make this into an actual song or something I wanted to perform, so. I wonder, could I send one of these LFO signals into tetrapad and have it modify anything? So I can control each individual pad and what it does. So I can make it slew itself more. Oh, level's not a helpful one. Can offset itself. Oh, let's try this. What if I send the LFO itself back into the TET to modify its own wave shape? This could be interesting. Look at that. Look at that crazy wave we're generating out of this. I don't actually remember how to change the wave shape on this. That's changing like the amplitude, I think. Yeah, so I can make it a much smaller anywhere from +1 to -1 to +5 -5 volts. Oh, and then I can make it positive only or negative only. This is slewing it. I think, yeah. Or actually, this is changing between the wave shapes, isn't it? Oh no, now I gotta find the sign again. Make sure I sort of back to our side. What were the other options in CV? So there's LFO shape, LFO rate. I don't even... Sure, why not? What happens if you send the LFO into itself to influence its own rate? It just goes nothing, yeah. Probably can't handle that fast. I know they patched TET recently to like not screw up when you send it a massively fast clock or something like that, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's related. Could be interesting. It didn't actually make much difference to the way of theirs. Okay. What other things could we do? This could be used as a trigger to advance this vector sequencer, but I feel like that's also a bit cheating. It's anything that vector puts out is not derived directly from this, versus marbles, everything that we're doing is derived from sampling the wave in the first place. So, what else? That's actually interesting. Putting the signal into the level on rings kind of like gives you the same sound from rings, but is cutting out some of the attack, which is nice. Control deja vu on, but that wouldn't, on marbles, that would not be that useful, I think. Could send things into the bias that would influence how often the marbles, how often the ring sound is changing, but considering our clock is so slow on marbles, I don't think it would actually be that useful. yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly really happy with this. I expected this to be much harder in a lot of respects, and it actually miraculously turned out pretty good. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has any suggestions and other things we can try. I'm more than happy to do whatever you like right now. Unfortunately, I don't have the ornament crime hooked up, so I can't let you influence the module voltages as they are right now, but yeah, speak up. I think I am going to just take this this value that we had here, so I can get it into a gate, or into a switch rather, and turn that on for that whole panning effect that I was showing you earlier. This guy. If I can make a derived version of this signal to control that, turn on and off the panning every so often. Maybe something from PAMs, maybe. If I had something with a slowish modifier that used CV1, let's say. I'm just gonna actually, no, don't save. Don't save, I don't want you to save. There. Reset this. So take this from CV1. So it's generating a lot of gates, or a lot of different signal values, right? If we're going to use this to influence select, we need it to be not as frequent, right? So turn the width up, perhaps? I think that'll just keep it on more, though. That's not really what I want. Delay. Oh, wait, maybe. I've really got to read up on delay in PAMs again. I don't remember at all how to use it. You can give it random skip, but it's not going to create gates that last long enough, because it's all derived from the from this signal. Is this thing just running at a really fast? No, it's running at 24 BPM. So if I make this a much higher modifier, lower modifier. Actually, the modifier doesn't seem to make any difference. Oh, I didn't even know there's a gate modifier? What does that mean? Rising signal modifier? Man, I gotta read up on PAMs. There's a lot of stuff in here that I have never tried using. That I can think of to do this would be to have it trigger something as stages that actually creates a gate from a trigger, but that's kind of breaking the rules. It's not really a directly derived signal, so how else would I do this? Because what things have I got left? I've got like I've got like a random sampling source to generate clocks, but that's not really helpful. I've got lots of VCAs. I've got 3 more banks of, or bars, or whatever you want to call them, of tetrapad. Most of which I can't really use in this, because they would be generating their own CV signals. Really all of which I can't use. I've got planar, but I don't have any like solid voltage sources that I could send. Everything else I have is like filters and sound sources, so that's not going to get me anywhere with what I want to do here. Levels, but that's not really gonna, well, I mean, okay, just to see, because I think it's gonna sound like crap, but what happens if we put this into the select CV? Yeah. As I expected, it doesn't sound too good. What I really want is to be able to go from this to this for a period, and then back to this. And like normally with none of these challenge limitations, that'd be super easy. But trying to make essentially a slow gate derived from this super fast LFO is difficult. This thing, okay, so hold on. This thing had a modulation or a modifier that was, where was it? Like a rising gate. So what does that mean? Doesn't seem to be triggering at all. Okay. PAM's manual. We're gonna look it up now because I think this may be the only way I can even get close to doing what I want here. Let's see. That's clock start or clock stop. That's what those ones are. It's not rising gate. I was wondering what that was. And then you can assign the modifier to CV control. What does that do? It doesn't really say. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find this fast enough. Actually, you know what? I will be right back. Right, so I don't think Pam's is going to give us what we want here, sadly. We're not going to be able to get a long enough gate from this. The only other thing I can think of is like, so we know that we get a gate at the top of every rotation of our little crazy LFO. So is there a way that we can... I'm thinking if I put it into maze and then sequence maze, can I essentially have it only take the tops of some of those LFOs? Let's just see if that see if we can do anything with that. So we will take okay, well, it's gonna go down to 4. So we're gonna go in maze. We'll just set up this preset. I forgot to check the manual on this again to see if there's a way to more quickly turn these things down. I'm sure there is, but Right, so input 4 is out on input 1. No, okay, we have to go back. Input 4 at 100%, or 99, but so that's this one. So if we now get this to sequence, sequencing this from the same source might be interesting. I don't know. Whoa, look at that go. So now we should get a slightly reduced version of the wave, I guess? Like, it's... Turn it down so it doesn't touch as many things. So now it should only go out every so often. Let's just try this on stages just to see, like, we can't use it this way based on the rules, but it does give a less frequent gate. So that sort of got partway there. Now the only thing is to elongate that gate. I don't know if there's a way to do that with a directly derived signal. Like, obviously, no problem doing that with stages by using this to trigger another signal, but that is not part of the rules. How would you take a gate and elongate a gate? Oh, I'm hilarious. Can't really do it with a VCA. You could do it with a sample and hold, but I'm out of sample and holds. Could this just be as simple as taking the alternate X output here and putting it into select? Yeah, basically. Okay. Screw all that stuff I just did, but we'll make this a little better by we'll go out of one of the other quantized CV things on marbles, and we'll go into A here, and we're gonna send the hold on, how are we gonna do this? We want this to be turned on and off. Right, so the output of this, its output actually goes into the CV of the next channel, so that I can turn it on and off. So right now, if I flip that second switch, then oh, yeah. I have to put a dummy cable in because all the channels are linked in select. If I don't put a dummy in, it'll invert the next channel, which isn't what I want. So right now it's set up. Right now it's passing signal through. So position of marbles will turn on and off that weird pan effect. But then if I flip it, well, there. Now it's manually controlled. I'll go back again, then it'll be controlled by CV. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I would definitely use that in... It'd be tough to do it with one signal, but I would definitely turn on that, like I said, that flappy panning, and then slowly turn the tempo down, I think. It'd be easier to do it with a different input into Tetrapad, but yeah. Well, you know what? I think that this is about as far as I'm going to get with this, and I'm pretty happy with what I made here. So let's just try that. Let's see if we can fade this out to an interesting finish and see. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no worries, Forestine. I totally get the need for that. So yeah, if anyone else is watching this and has a modular setup, try it. You find some really interesting ways of mangling CV signals when you limit yourself to having just one output. And yeah, again, remember, I've got a new album. Go and have a look if you're interested. It's a lot of music, previous music that I've released. And yeah, stay safe, stay inside, make lots of music, and I'll see a bunch of you hopefully on Wednesday. Let's see who's around, because it's a Saturday and it's quarantined, and I'm sure there's people around. Thank you. I appreciate it. Alrighty. Who's here today? Well, these guys are having a chat at IX Studios Cleveland, so I'll send you over there. Other than that, take care, everyone.